Most of the games that have released in collaboration with Sweet Baby Inc. have been complete and utter failures, which is hilarious to see. But now, Sweet Baby Inc.'s recently released Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn has lost nearly 70% of its player base in just over a week. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, there are over 400,000 people that follow Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, or DEI Detected as it is now known, and that is powerful that so many people are aware of what is going on in the video game industry and do not want to support games like this. They want to stay as far away from Sweet Baby Inc. as possible, and you love to see it because there are so many individuals within the industry who are developers that have worked with Sweet Baby or simply do not want gamers criticizing bad products who say, oh, your opinions don't matter, your feedback doesn't matter, and if you don't like what we've created, don't buy it. And well, people aren't. It says Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, developed by A44 Games with the help of Sweet Baby Inc. and published by Kepler Interactive, lost nearly 70% of its player base in just over a week. The player numbers are already anemic for this. I mean, it only released to a peak of 648 players, and I never expected this to get like 100,000 players in game, right? It's not a AAA release, it is a AA, but there are AA games that release and are very successful. And you would think with all of the marketing, this would have done a little bit better. I mean, they did heavily promote it at Summer Games Fest and all of those summer showcases. There have been advertisements on X and YouTube. So I expected it to get maybe 2,000 to 5,000. That's being extremely generous, but it couldn't even draw in 1,000 people because it had all-time peaked at 648 on Steam. I do think it is important to note that this did come out on other platforms and it was on Game Pass day one. I live streamed this game, I gave it a shot, and I did play it through Game Pass because we know developers basically make nothing off of Game Pass titles. It's just sort of for exposure, and I didn't want to monetarily support them. But I still wanted to showcase it to you guys. If you wanted to see my playthrough and witness the cringe and awful gameplay, it will be linked down below. But it was a terrible experience. I regret playing it. As one of the worst games that I have had to stream on this channel. And I never expected it to be amazing, but I expected it to least be okay. And it wasn't even that. But what did not help is the fact that half of the game is filler, and it was a short experience. I finished the game within 8.5-ish hours, and a little bit of that time was kind of dilly-dallying, doing some side quests. So you could finish this game in 6 hours, and with that information, it's not surprising to see that there are people who purchased it and were playing it and just sort of are not anymore because it is a short experience, and those player numbers are going to drop off, as that always happens with single player titles. But to see the starting numbers be so awful and then for it to tank this much within a week is hilarious to see. Again, there are over 400,000 people that follow Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, never mind the people who don't follow it but are aware of the culture war and Gamergate 2 that know of these situations and are actively boycotting SBI titles. Now, even with the boycott aside, I never really saw this game as having a massive audience just because of the bizarre way they marketed it. They said it was going to be a unique Souls-light experience, but there's really nothing unique about it. Yes, it's got Estus flasks and bonfires, and I think that's perfectly fine, but it's only got like 6 main bosses, and they're all pretty easy. There was one that I got stuck at that I had to attempt like 10 times, but after I had learned his pattern in phase 2, it only took me one more attempt to actually defeat the boss, and then the bosses after that were super freaking easy. So the game doesn't have a very high difficulty, and you can actually turn the difficulty down to story mode, which is basically journalist mode, but this game didn't have anything unique to offer that I haven't already seen in other games. It's not like it had some wide variety of builds and strategies you could come up with. It didn't have a lot of builder variety, which is sad to me. I thought that maybe that would be kind of the light at the end of the tunnel for this game. Like, oh wow, I don't like the story or the character designs or the aesthetics, but if the gameplay's really good, I can at least give it a decent rating, but that didn't happen. It's just a terrible game, and there's a reason why so many people do not like it, and ultimately so many people aren't playing it. The people are saying things like this game feels unfinished. The store page describes it as a Souls light, and that's what it is in the worst possible ways. Light on builds, light on the difficulty, light on the content and length of the damn game. I completed the main story, including all side quests and Enki feathers and shrines in 11.6 hours. Yeah, I did quite a few of these side quests because we were breezing through it, and my playthrough was like 8.5-ish hours. Probably a little bit less just because I was messing around with a lot of random things in the game, basically trying to see if there was something else I was missing that would have actually made me have a fun time, which of course that did not happen. But they're also saying I played on normal, so maybe the hard difficulty is more of a challenge. It really isn't, because the bosses all still have the same patterns. They just do a bit more damage. And even so, if you're a Souls player and you've played through Elden Ring or Shadow of the Erdtree, we're not talking Millennia difficulties. We're not talking about Radon difficulties. We're simply talking about the bosses doing a little bit more damage. I mean, even the hardest difficulty is going to be easy for veteran Souls players. It says that even the final boss fell over pretty quick. Yeah, it only took me 2 attempts for the final boss, and the first time only failed because I thought that I had defeated the boss, but they actually had a sliver of health. It says the story is nothing to speak of. Oh yeah, the story was just so forgettable. And sometimes there are games that have forgettable stories, but the combat is so amazing that you still want to play it again. That didn't happen here. I will never play Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn ever again, and I regret playing it the first time. It also says the second most helpful review also does not recommend the game. They said the game is not terrible, it looks great. I personally disagree. I thought that character models were really bad. I thought that there was a lot of pop-in, a lot of texture issues. Aesthetically didn't do it for me. It says, though, in Flintlock you follow the quest marker, parkour over obstacles that are clearly marked in white, or zip through rifts that give you an infinite amount of time to choose your direction. Yeah, there's things that they could have done to increase the difficulty, like making it so you could only stay in the rifts for a couple of seconds, but you could stay there for hours if you wanted. You never have to leave the rift if you don't want to. There's just small tweaks that they could have made to make it a significantly better experience, and they didn't. This is a game for journalists. If you want a super easy game where you don't actually have to make decisions in a certain amount of time, you want to be able to, I guess, maybe experience the story, even though I personally disliked the story heavily and thought that it was dumb. I guess maybe this is the game for you, because it just was too easy, and it really didn't offer anything that 100 other games haven't done, and even better. This game didn't do anything better than any game I have ever played. So right now, it appears that Sweet Baby Inc. has another flop under their belt, because Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn was truly a terrible experience, and it has lost nearly 70% of its already tiny player base in just over a week. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.